everyone. Hope you all are in the pink of your health. As we had promised to make you meet new people while sitting at home, we are back yet again with another episode of KidzLive. Today we have with us Ankita Dubey and Amit Mishra. Amit is an entrepreneur and enabler in the Indian startup ecosystem for almost a decade now. He advises companies on the Indian entry strategy. He is also a TEDx speaker and works closely for some government initiatives too. Welcome, Amit.
Thank you, Nishta.
We also have with us Ankita today. Ankita has been working in the development sector for the last 8+ years. A large portion of her experience has been in the education domain with organizations like ASER Centre, ARC, and now with the Department of Education, Delhi government. Besides education, she had also worked on agriculture and a short stint in skill development. Currently, she is working as a fellow under Delhi Assembly Research Centre with the Department of Education, and for the last 1 year, she has been working on the entrepreneurship mindset curriculum. Welcome to the show, Ankita.
Thank you, Nishtha.
So today we are going to talk about children experience on entrepreneurship mindset curriculum. Before we get back into serious question role, I would love to know about your childhood. As we are running an initiative called Kidzpreneur, we are trying to create a series of thought leaders. So I want you to go back in your childhood and give a glimpse of what you were and what were the best memories you had.
Okay. So to begin with, I have no qualms in saying that I was a very average student in school. I was very shy. I was very scared that, a teacher will ask me a question and then I will have to stand up in front of the whole class and, answer and speak up. And I think that fear kind of stayed with me for a very long time. And it was only after I started working that I was able to get rid of it. And now that I've kind of worked in the education sector for a bit, I am able to kind of look back on my own school experiences and kind of analyze everything that was kind of wrong with it or everything that could have been different. Because I think fear generally is detrimental to learning overall also. Because learning, which is supposed to be like a two-way process where you're supposed to ask, you're supposed to question, and that becomes like a one-sided thing. Where you then become alone in the process. So I think that fear kind of, which is very common also amongst students, and it comes up a lot of times when we talk to students about their general fears in the entrepreneurship mindset curriculum. This is one of the most common running theme of like scared of being speaking up. But I'm glad that I was able to overcome it with the support of a lot of people in my life, especially my employers actually. And then eventually I was actually able to get into things like capacity building and trainings where the core job is to actually stand in front of people and talk and train and actually have that kind of authority in a way that people kind of listen to you. So I'm very proud of my whole journey from being a very shy, reticent kid to now being able to kind of talk to you on this call and generally kind of do things and do trainings and other stuff. So yeah, but I think if I have to kind of look back on fond memories from school and from learning and studies, then we used to have these group studies after school, which I think a lot of us have done during our school days, where you huddle at somebody's place post school and you study. So I think there, now again, when I look back at that, I realize how important that peer group support was for a child like me, say, to have that small group where you feel comfortable to be yourself, where you feel comfortable to ask questions and to get your queries resolved through peer support. Which again, I mean, like now in COVID times, I think that is one big element which is missing, that psychosocial support which comes through peer learning. But I think that is one of my fondest memories from school, at least, to study in those small groups at home post school, and kind of, so one person used to take up a topic and then explain to others. So I think that also kind of builds your confidence to be sure that you know something when you explain it to somebody else. So I think that is a little glimpse into my childhood.
It was so nice to hear what your childhoods have been. I guess I myself was too shy to come in front of everyone to speak. So now it's time to shoot some heavy questions now. Let's get ready for that. So my first
Sure.
question to start this interaction would be, as you're working under Delhi Assembly Research Center, tell us about your extent with Delhi Assembly around entrepreneurship mindset. What challenges you face and how was your journey throughout this and executing these curriculum in Delhi schools?
Yeah. So yeah, this fellowship is called Delhi Assembly Research Center Fellowship, which was started last year. And the main purpose of this fellowship is to provide research support to MLAs and to different departments. Now, within this fellowship, I was placed with the Department of Education, and within that, to specifically work on EMC. So actually, when I started my fellowship, I did not know that I will be placed with the entrepreneurship mindset curriculum. And well, I feel so lucky and fortunate now. So when I joined, the team was in the process of kind of reviewing feedback they had received over the first year of the curriculum. So when I joined, it had been almost exactly a year since the curriculum had been rolled out in schools. Um, so they were kind of reviewing all the feedback, trying to understand how can they better the curriculum for year two. So I think that was a very interesting point to join. And just a month and a half after I joined, the first component, as we call it, or a sub project, I kind of delved deep first into was live entrepreneur interactions. Now, that is a component of EMC where we call real life entrepreneurs to classrooms, and they interact with students in small batches. So the idea is that they share their journey, their failures, their successes with students, and student kind of ask them questions, and they kind of learn a little bit about the mindsets that went into at different points in their journey. So when I kind of got into the thick of it is when I realized how powerful this curriculum can be, and how much potential it has. Because I mean, in talking to students, in talking to teachers and entrepreneurs, I sensed the kind of excitement there was around it. So for example, in talking to entrepreneurs, like I've always felt, because I've been in the development sector for some time now, that everybody wants to do something. So you talk to people who are outside the sector, everybody is like really fascinated and they want to do something, but there is still this skepticism around NGOs. So people don't want to like give money, but they want to uh, share something which they are good at. I think this kind of provided them a platform to share their journey with children, which I think is the best way in which you can influence overall society, by influencing and shaping children. So I think that of course gave us like an overwhelming response from entrepreneurs. And after their sessions, I mean, we of course got calls on how excited and happy they were to kind of hear questions from students, and how they want to kind of go back and like do it again. From students and teachers, I mean, there was so much of excitement of like meeting somebody new, about learning about new avenues, new fields. So of course, I mean, I think even still the understanding about what is there to explore for students post class 12 or post school is still limited. So I think when you meet different people, you understand ki kitna kuch hai jo hum kar sakte hain. So I think that was a point when I realized that wow, I don't think in my limited experience I've ever seen something like this get implemented in such a structured way anywhere else. I'm sure there are like one-off things which happen in school where you call people, establish people, and they talk with children. But here, like ensuring that every school gets this experience, every child gets this experience, that was really like powerful. And since the lockdown, of course, we've been doing a lot of digital engagement with students also, where we send them activities, where we ask them to do things. And I think the constant feedback which we received over the last 4 months, and generally over time when we visited schools and everything, is that I think children find it as an exercise to reflect upon themselves, because I think that is not allowed much by other academic subjects, right? To like really think about your own self. So what are your dreams, what is it, what are your fears, to like process your own experiences, analyze them, learn from them, uh, to understand if you failed at something, how did you react to it, were you able to bounce back from it. So these are actually the running themes of entrepreneurship mindset, which we try to inculcate, like foundational mindsets. dream bigger, manage fear, how do you analyze and learn, how do you plan and execute, impact and responsibility. So all of this, I think the feedback which we kept receiving is that of course it's very fun. We make sure that it's fun. It takes the students away from their academic burden, but along with it, it also kind of very like subtly, slowly, it keeps building in them like certain mindsets, like bringing about that mindset shift through very reflective activities. And generally, I think, for example, now as an adult, I realize how important it is to say like journal, to kind of reflect, acha ye hua tha, kyun aisa hua, why did I react like this, why did I not do this. Now as an adult, I realize the importance of like processing your own experiences. I wish like these students, I had a subject, similar subject in school where it required you to like do these exercises so early on in your life that it becomes a part of your, daily life. So all of this, of course, is like very exciting. I think when I talk to people who don't know about what is happening in the Delhi education space or generally, I think people are amazed at like, acha, like something like this is happening. And so, yeah, I mean that. And in terms of, I think, challenges, uh, so we'd obviously always want more and more feedback from students, like to hear directly from students. I mean, we can create Google forms, get schools to fill it, coordinators to fill it, teachers to fill it, but I think getting that feedback directly from students is where we'll actually get a true picture of what else do we need to do. So we are always kind of thinking of ways on how we can do it better. How is it that we can really reach more students, ask them what is it that they feel about it, do they like it, what do they want different. So I think that is not a challenge, but that is something which we're like constantly thinking about and would want to do more. uh, so yeah, very long answer to your question though.
Ankita, I have a follow-up question to
Yeah,
that.
yeah, please.
You talked about different stakeholders. You talked about entrepreneurs, teachers, as well as students.
Yeah,
How there has been a proactive approach from the Delhi government and or in other governments also
yeah.
to develop this kind of initiative. But uh, you're working inside the government. Right? What has been their understanding? Were they ready for this kind of surprise, or was it a surprise for them?
So like to be very honest, I think whenever you introduce something new, there is always resistance from all stakeholders, from everybody whom it affects. I think initially it would not be wrong to say that it took time for everybody to figure out as to how will this help exactly. So I think there was resistance on uh, using those first 30-35 minutes of that of your school time for EMC, rather than, oh, you can actually use it for science, you can do it for mathematics, why not. So I think that, but now I think that has slowly shifted, and I think that is a natural thing to happen. It takes time for people to kind of get the buy-in for all this from all the stakeholders. So in fact, recently when the Delhi board results were announced, some teachers actually did give that feedback that because of entrepreneurship mindset activities and things like mindfulness, which students now have to practice under it in school every day, it
Mhm.
has had a positive impact on other subjects also.
Okay,
So I
right.
think that has now come from teachers. So I think now slowly over 2 years we've been able to kind of build that buy-in and acceptance, and there is now that excitement around it on how it not just is useful in itself as a subject, but
Mhm.
because it builds on faculties which are required for other subjects also. It's like a holistic package. So yeah, it takes time, but I think it eventually, if it's a strong good package, then there is eventually, I think, buy. And yeah, so that happened.
Great, great. I think Nishta, you can ask the next question. I'll jump in. This is actually a good, very relevant point because if this could be a benchmark, then this can be replicated to everywhere in India, and that's
Yeah,
what we need. More
yeah.
thought leaders.
Ankita, as you have mentioned earlier about missing the peer learning in this lockdown, so what do you think that uh, is it a good initiative by the government to teach the students in colleges and schools online?
Hmm.
Are the students facing any issues or something?
Hmm. So I think, well, it's not an option anymore. So the option of not going online is, I think, not there. With schools shut around the world, everything had to kind of compulsorily move online. So, in fact, I think, in the last few years, generally, there was this whole thing around education technology. It was like this big buzzword, and the idea was that technology is that magic wand which, if you wave, and I think you will be able to kind of solve all problems. And then the lockdown struck, and everybody actually had to compulsorily move online, as you're saying. And I guess then it dawned upon everybody that this is like real. Now we have to actually implement and do everything which we've been talking about. And of course, I think to begin with, everybody has to accept the fact that it is a challenge. I mean, in a country like India, there is a large chunk of students who are still not online. And I think within that, the discussion will be very different for students from metropolitan, students from second tier cities, and students from rural pockets. If we talk about a city like Delhi also, there is a population which is not online, students who do not have access to like a smartphone. But I think besides that, there are also other issues which we sometimes kind of miss and we don't pay heed to. So I think having one smartphone with internet at home does not ensure smooth learning, because it might happen that the student does not have the phone with him or her through the whole day because the parents have started going out to work. So the student might only get access to it late in the evening at 7:30. Then that student will have to kind of go over everything that has happened through the day. And from what, of course, there are classes which happen, there are messages which are sent, there are worksheets which are sent. So now everything has to be like crammed into that last 2 hours which the student gets with the phone. So issues like that. Secondly, I think small things like space, like physical space. Now every child does not have the luxury of a separate room where you can like sit comfortably like me and have like a quiet environment to chat with Nishtha. It might happen that students are sitting in a room with their parents and with their siblings, with cooking happening, with the television also on at the same time, and there's a live online class happening. Now we'd also want the student to kind of switch on their camera, because I mean, without the camera, of course, we know that the disconnect is kind of that creeps in. You are not able to build that kind of connect. But if the child switches on the camera, the bandwidth might not be enough to support the phone. If the child tries to kind of unmute and say something, there might be disturbance. Now we also want the session to be like smooth and like without any disturbances. So I think these are challenges, which very small challenges, which sometimes I think which facilitators will learn now that things have had to go online. And also, I think teaching in person and teaching online then becomes a completely different ballgame. I think facilitators now will have to kind of realign themselves for the online medium. And like, how do you kind of make this interactive? How do you make this participative with all the limitations of not, not being present face to face? Now, instead of peer support groups and group studies, we have breakout rooms on Zoom where you can go and like do small chats with your. But it is, of course, very, very difficult, and that psychosocial support is which you get from your friends is missing. Because I mean, we do see schools. Schools, of course, are spaces where students can go and just be themselves, like be their own age. Children, I think, need that space which is away from their family and which is away from their siblings also, which becomes now, which is absent. So it is difficult, and well, I think everybody is dealing with it in their own ways.
Right. So this, I have a follow-up question on that. How is the upgradation of teachers? So teachers themselves will talk to teach everything offline, right? Live. Now this is online. Everything is online. Now the teaching methodology, there is no hand-holding for them also, right? So things have are things, they are still jittery in terms of the learning. If the learning is going in the right way or not, is the learning complete? And there is other challenge that they don't want kids to sit for 6 hours straight in front of a laptop or a phone, right? what has been your experience till now, right? And if there are good examples, we want to share some good examples possibly.
I mean, I think I feel now things have kind of settled now that we've been in lockdown for like 4 months and schools have been shut for about 4 months. Um, I think now those networks and those groups are also in place to ensure that things reach whoever it has to reach. So, for example, having groups of students, having groups of teachers in a way that if, for example, a worksheet has to go out, then it percolates all those different layers of many teachers, students, and it reaches everybody it has to reach. uh, I'm sure it took time. Of course, a lot of these groups were already in place for other purposes, for general coordination, and then they came in very, very handy when this like kind of had to happen online. For example, if worksheets have to be circulated online now, so these groups are now being used for that. Of course, now there is also the recognition that there are kids who are not online. So there have been mechanisms which have been set to reach those students also. So, for example, the parent comes to a school once a week, collects the worksheet, goes back. The child completes the worksheet, and the parent then comes next week after that and submits it and takes the second worksheet. So, I think all of that now has been taken into consideration to ensure that everybody is reached. Within EMC, we tried things like SMS also to ensure that we're not only using WhatsApp. So we were, I mean, I think within digital engagement, our reach was in absolute numbers very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
But still, there was a large portion of children who were not able to kind of access it. So we used SMS. We are now exploring and thinking of other ways, IVR and everything. So yeah, but I think it is now not that jittery now, I think. And I think people have kind of identified the pain points which were there initially. And I think systems have been set to kind of address those.
So moving forward, I would like to ask my next question, that what were the roles of education in promotion of local industry and entrepreneurship?
So I think, of course, I see education, and I'm sure everybody watching would agree, as one of the most important levers for economic growth generally in any country. And I think education, for example, at the school level, if you talk about education at school level, then we need to ensure that we are sending individuals out in the market who are strengthened with certain foundational mindsets, which is what we are doing within entrepreneurship mindset curriculum, right? I mean, having individuals who can dream big. So unless you cannot dream big, you will not be able to go out and kind of say start something of your own. You need to have that vision. Individuals who have that creativity for innovation. Of course, you need to kind of identify opportunities to say that, this is where I think the market lacks, and this is where I can come in. Probably I can do something. So unless we do not build those mindsets at the school level, children who are leaving school and entering the market will not have that mindset to kind of succeed and to do something of one own. And I think we have to also kind of, again, remember that these entrepreneurial mindsets are not just to become an entrepreneur. Even in your regular jobs, even in your relationships, I think these mindsets come in very handy, right? I think just to be like a better person. So this needs to be, I think, reiterated more often than not, that entrepreneurial mindsets are not something which are only needed to become, are only needed if you want to become an entrepreneur. These are skill sets, these are mindsets which are needed irrespective of what you want to do in life. So I remember there was once this student, and I think we had this stall, EMC stall somewhere. Somebody came up, I think a teacher or mentor teacher. They asked this child, how will it help, say, a housewife, if a girl grows up and decides that I do not want to work, I just want to be married and I want to be a homemaker. And I think that student was able to answer it so well. She said that these are skill sets which will help me navigate different relationships in my home, which will help me understand others, because unless you do that, you will not be able to maintain the kind of rapport which is required. It will help me understand myself. It will help me communicate better, articulate better. And then as a housewife, if I want to start something of my own, I will have the skill set and the backing to kind of do and begin something useful. So I think that kind of understanding has now been built among students also, on how useful these skills are across board. So yeah, I mean, I think that is important, building that foundation for anything, for building local industry, for building that ecosystem. So yeah.
Very nice thoughts shared by that girl. I mean that everyone should have those understanding concepts in them.
Yeah.
Earlier, you did a summer boot camp with Kidzpreneur.
Yeah.
Would you like to share your experience on that?
So I think I learned so much from that boot camp. I think my understanding of, what works online, what doesn't, a lot of it has been built from this boot camp, which we did, where just for, if there are people watching, just to give a little bit of a context. So under this boot camp, the EMC team, we tied up with 8 organizations, including Kidzpreneur. And these organizations, they conducted online sessions with students. So we had about 350-400 students who attended these sessions. And all of these organizations, of course, had a different kind of approach and different topics which they covered. So starting with how do you make a business plan, to design thinking, to how do you problem solve, communication, public speaking, making a pitch, like all of this spectrum. So this is like the basic concept. And I think it was like so thoroughly enjoyed by the kids. I remember attending a session on design thinking, and I just keep telling it to everybody that I learned about design thinking like exactly 3 or 4 years back, when I actually had to apply it at work, and then I had to like get trained on it. And I was wondering that, imagine these students are getting exposure to something like that important a framework so early in their life. How much, if I had got it then, I would have been probably 5 steps ahead in my career at this point in life. I think it was extremely fascinating to see. And I think all organizations, they put in so much of hard work, and it was so heartening to see that everybody wants to do everybody wants good for the students. Everybody wants to like find ways on how can we like improve things for our students, how can we ensure like a better future, brighter future for all of them. So I really enjoyed. I think I was actually with Kidzpreneur, and attended a lot of their sessions, and it was absolutely fascinating, and very, very good facilitators. I had a very good time, and I think we were able to kind of also build a very good kind of like a system between the EMC team and the organizations, all organizations, where every organization was just so receptive to all the feedback which we had to give. So every organization had a couple of observers who were just there in sessions to kind of see what is happening. Every time we gave feedback to all organizations, I think it was received so well. So I think there was also like a big change from week 1 to like week 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever it was, just because of that mutual kind of communication agreement, that everybody's on the same board when it comes to kind of doing it well and doing it right. So yeah, I had like a very, very good time. And I think it's a very useful thing, and we'd want to do it more. And I hope we get the opportunity to do it again for more students.
Sure, we'll surely get back again. Before ending the session, I would like you to give a special message or a special note to children which they should always keep in mind.
Which they should always keep in mind. So I think one should not become, so the one message which I'd want to give is that don't become a hurdle for your own self, right? I think this is what I struggled with personally. So I think a lot of times हम खुद को बोलते हैं कि नहीं मैं तो ये नहीं कर सकता, मैं ये नहीं कर सकती, मैं ये डिजर्व नहीं करता, अच्छा मुझे अपॉर्चुनिटी मिल रही है, शायद इनको कुछ गलत लग रहा होगा, मैं तो इतनी अच्छी नहीं हूँ इस चीज में. So I think we should kind of stop telling ourselves that we are not worth it or hum ye nahi kar payenge. I think once we remove that hurdle and we actually understand that we can do everything if we put our heart and mind to it, that is like, I think, half the battle won. Then you can do everything.
Thank you for
Okay.
this lovely note.
Thank
Now,
you.
I would like to thank all the audience who have been watching us on Facebook Live or going through the recording after this session. And thank you, Ankita, for answering all our questions.
Thank you, Nishtha. Thank you, Amit.
These
Thank you.
testing times under COVID-19 situation has created a vacuum and forced us to face times we had never dreamt of. Engaging students have become quite an effort who are forced to stay inside their homes 24/7. So this Kids Life Show initiative, like many others, would help you keep your child engaged and updated. Even you can reach out to us with any suggestions and feedback on our Facebook page or on our website, kidzpreneur.com. Also, you may write to us about what topic you want to understand more, and we'll surely get the experts for you. Thank you very much for being the part of Kids Life Show. Thank you, Ankita and Amit, for joining us.